Eli stood in front of the small kitchen window, staring at the twin suns of Varelafor as they dipped low into the orange sky. The city outside was quieter than usual. Roads were nearly empty. Stores were closing early. Everyone was preparing for the start of mating season, something Eli still didn't fully understand. He sighed, resting his hand on the warm counter. His shuttle back to Earth had been canceled last minute due to a solar flare. He was stuck in the apartment for at least another 2 weeks. Most humans left the planet during this season, but not Eli. Not anymore. He turned around to see Era sitting on the couch. She was calm as always, her pale blue skin glowing softly under the lights. Her silver eyes followed the news on the screen. But Eli knew she wasn't really watching. She was thinking about the season, probably. Era was his roommate. They had shared the small apartment for nearly a year without any problems. She was respectful, intelligent, and quiet. They didn't talk much at first, but over time they learned to enjoy each other's company. It wasn't deep, but it was peaceful. But now, things were different. Earlier that day, Arid had asked him gently, "Are you staying?" Eli nodded, unsure why she sounded so uncertain. She didn't say anything after that, just gave a small nod and walked away. Since then, the silence between them had stretched like a thin thread, soft but tense. Mating season on Varelafor wasn't what humans thought. It wasn't just about love or attraction. It was a time when the Lyraera species became more emotionally sensitive. Their bodies stayed the same, but their hearts opened up, seeking something deeper: connection, understanding, emotional trust. That's why most people chose to be with their own kind during this time. And that's why Eli now felt like an uninvited guest in his own home. He made himself a cup of hot tea, walked slowly toward the living area. Era looked up at him and gave a soft, almost shy smile. Eli smiled back. "You okay?" he asked, sitting on the other side of the couch. Era hesitated, then she nodded. "Yes, just thinking." Eli sipped his tea. The silence returned, but it felt warmer this time, not awkward. Outside, the stars were beginning to appear. Soft wind blew against the windows. "I didn't mean to stay," Eli said suddenly. "I wanted to go back, but the shuttle, I know," Era said. Her voice was quiet, but steady. "Not your fault. You are welcome here." He looked at her. Even during this season, Era didn't look away. Yes, even now. Eli felt something shift in the air between them. Something small, but important. She was being honest. And that honesty felt rare. They talked a little more. It's about simple things: books, food. How the stars on Varela looked different than Earth's, but under their words, something else was. Building, a quiet question neither of them asked, feeling neither of them understood yet. As the night grew deeper, Era stood up to leave the room. At the door to her space, she paused. "Eli," she said softly. He looked up. "If anything, I do feel strange to you. Please tell me." He blinked. "Okay, I will." She nodded and disappeared behind the door. Eli sat there for a long time, holding his tea, thinking about what she meant. What would feel strange? What was coming? He didn't know. But he had a feeling that something was starting. Something quiet, something slow, but maybe something real. The stars outside kept shining. The next morning, Eli woke up to the smell of something cooking. He rubbed his eyes and stepped into the kitchen. Era stood near the stove, gently stirring something in a small pot. She wore a soft gray robe, and her long silver hair was tied back. Steam rose from the food, carrying a sweet, calming smell. "You're cooking?" Eli asked, surprised. Era turned slightly and gave a quiet smile. "Yes, I thought it might be nice." He looked at the counter. 2 plates were already set. The table had a small flower in a glass. It wasn't anything big, but it felt thoughtful, different. Eli sat down slowly. "How? You didn't have to do all this." "I know," Era said, placing a bowl in front of him, "but I wanted to." Ate together in silence. The food was warm and a little sweet, with soft spices that Eli couldn't name. It was comforting. He watched Era carefully. She looked the same, but her eyes were softer today, gentler. After breakfast, they both returned to their routines. Eli worked on his laptop while Era read quietly across the room. But something had shifted between them. Every now and then, Eli caught Era looking at him, not just looking, but watching, like she was trying to understand something. That afternoon, they sat on the balcony. The air was cool and soft lights danced across the sky from passing ships. Era held a small cup of warm juice in her hands. "Can I ask you something?" she said suddenly. Eli turned to her. "Sure. Do humans feel lonely, even when someone is near?" He blinked. The question hit him in a place he didn't expect. "Yeah," he said after a pause. "Sometimes being near someone doesn't mean you feel close to them. It's a strange thing." Era nodded slowly, her eyes thoughtful. "We feel something like that too. But not often. Only during the season." Eli didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. The silence between them stretched, but it didn't feel empty. It felt full, like the space was holding something important. That night, Eli lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. He kept thinking about Era's question. It wasn't just curiosity. It felt personal, like she was speaking from her own heart. He remembered all the times he felt alone back on Earth. Among people, friends, even family. Sometimes it was like no one really saw him, not the way Era seemed to now. The next few days followed a quiet pattern. They ate together, talked a little more, spent long moments in silence that didn't feel awkward anymore. But Eli noticed more changes in Era. She started asking deeper questions. She listened with care, her expression soft and open. While watching a movie together, she laughed a small, honest laugh, and then turned to him with wide eyes, as if surprised by her own emotion. "I don't usually do that," she whispered. Eli smiled. "It was a funny part." She nodded but didn't look away. The moments kept building, slow, gentle, and unspoken. There was no sudden spark or dramatic touch. Just two people, two beings, learning each other's shape, one glance at a time. One evening, Eli found a small object on his desk. It was a crystal pendant, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. It was carved in a shape he didn't recognize. He picked it up and turned to Era, who was sitting nearby. "This is yours, isn't it?" Era nodded. "I had it since I was a child. It's a symbol of calm. I wanted you to have it." Eli held the crystal carefully. "Why?" "Because you've been patient and kind, and because I want you to feel safe here." Eli's heart tightened in his chest. He hadn't expected any of it, but it felt right. He looked at her. "Thank you," she smiled, and this time, the silence between them felt like a promise. The days passed slowly, but something was growing between Eli and Era, something neither of them could fully explain. It wasn't romance in the way humans described it, and it wasn't friendship either. It was something in between. Something quiet, careful, and deep. Eli found himself watching Era more than before. The way she moved, calm and smooth. The way her voice softened when she spoke to him. The way her eyes lit up when they talked about human music or old Earth stories. She wasn't just being polite. She was trying to understand him. One afternoon, they sat on the balcony again. Era had made warm drinks with local herbs, and a gentle wind passed over them. Eli looked at the cloudy sky above and broke the silence. "Era," he said slowly, "can I ask something about your people?" She turned to him. "Of course, this whole mating season thing. Is it really about finding someone to be with, or is it something else?" Era looked thoughtful for a moment, and she nodded. "It is. Both and neither. Our biology changes during this season, yes, but not like humans expect. Our minds become more open. We begin to feel emotions more strongly. That is when we choose." "Choose?" Eli asked, confused. "Yes," she said softly. "We choose someone, not just for mating, but for connection. Emotional balance. It's not about touch or attraction. It's about trust." Eli was quiet. The words made sense, but they also opened 100 new questions inside him. "So," he said, "if you choose someone, does that mean? Forever. Era shook her head gently. Not always. But when the connection is true, it often lasts. A long time, it is rare and special. Eli felt something stir in his chest. He wasn't sure if it was hope or fear. He looked at the crystal pendant she had given him a few days earlier. It now hung near his bed, glowing faintly at night. It had become a small comfort, like a soft voice whispering, "You're not alone." "Have you ever chosen someone before?" he asked quietly. Era looked down at her drink, holding it carefully in her hands. "No," she said. "Never." They sat in silence after that, watching the soft glow of passing ships in the sky. The silence felt full again, full of thoughts, of feelings, of something neither of them dared to say out loud. Later that evening, Eli sat on the couch reading something on his tablet. Era walked in and sat beside him, not close, but near enough that he could feel her presence. "I have a question now," she said. He looked at her. "Okay. Do humans believe that love must always be physical?" Eli blinked. The question surprised him. "No," he said. "Not always. Some people do. Some people don't. For me, I think the strongest love is when you feel seen, when you feel safe with someone." Era nodded slowly. "I think I feel that with you. Not love, but something close, something I don't have a word for." Eli's heart beat faster. He didn't know what to say, just smiled. "That's enough," he said. "You don't need a word for it." She looked at him for a long time. Her silver eyes didn't shine brightly tonight. Instead, they looked soft, honest. "I'm glad we're here together," she whispered. "Me too," he replied. As the night moved on, they stayed in the same room, each doing quiet things. But the space between them had changed. It was no longer filled with curiosity or questions. It was filled with a soft, shared feeling, not love. Not yet, but maybe something even more rare, connection not bound by rules, species, or expectations. Just two hearts learning how to speak the same quiet language. The morning light filtered through the window, soft and golden. Eli stretched as he woke up, his thoughts still hazy from a dream he couldn't remember. But one thing stayed in his mind, Era's voice from the night before. "I think I feel that with you. Something I don't have a word for." Those words had stayed with him. It's not heavy, not confusing, just warm, quiet. Like the first sunlight after rain, he stood and walked to the living room. On the table, near his spot on the couch, something was waiting for him. A small, neatly folded cloth with a hand-carved box resting on top. Curious, Eli picked it up. The box was smooth and light. He opened it slowly. Inside was a pendant, another one, but different from the crystal she had given him earlier. One was made of soft metal with delicate blue lines etched into it. In the center was a small circle of light, gently pulsing. He didn't understand its meaning, but it felt important. Just then Era stepped out of her room. Her eyes met his. "You found it," she said quietly. Eli held the pendant carefully. "What is it?" "It's called a lure," she said. "It's something we give. When we feel a deep alignment with someone, it doesn't promise anything. It only says, 'I see you. I choose to walk beside you.'" Eli stared at the pendant, his heart thudding softly. He wasn't sure what to say. It wasn't a romantic gift, not like a ring or flowers. But somehow it felt more powerful. He looked up at Era. "Why me?" Era stepped closer. "Because you listen. You don't judge me when I don't understand. Human feelings. You speak gently. You stay calm. I feel safe with you." Her voice was steady, but there was something in her eyes. Not tears, but something close. A feeling too deep for words. Eli held the pendant tightly. "Thank you," he said. "This means a lot." She nodded. "You don't have to give anything back. It's not an exchange. It's just truth." The day passed quietly after that, but everything felt new. They still followed their usual routine, working, eating, sitting together in the evenings, but something invisible had changed. Eli felt it in every small moment. The way Era placed a second cup of tea for him without asking. The way she touched his shoulder lightly when passing by. The way their silences now felt like warm blankets instead of empty spaces. That night, as they sat by the window watching the stars, Era spoke again. I think humans and Lyrai are more alike than we thought. Eli glanced at her. Yeah. She nodded. We both hide our feelings. We both fear being misunderstood. But when we try, we can connect. Even without the same words, he smiled. You're not wrong. Then, after a pause, she said something that surprised him. When this season ends, I don't want this to end. Eli turned fully toward her. Me neither. It wasn't a big moment. There was no music, no dramatic touch. Just two people, two different beings, looking at each other with quiet understanding. They didn't need to say the word love. That wasn't what this was yet. It was something else. Something still growing. Eli stood and placed the Lure pendant on the shelf next to the glowing crystal she had given him earlier. 2 gifts, 2 meanings, 1 silent story? Ira watched him, her expression soft and steady. That night, as Eli lay in bed, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, belonging. Not just to a place, but to a moment, to someone who saw him, not for what he was, but for who he chose to be. Outside, the stars continued to shine, and inside, something beautiful was quietly taking shape. The next morning, the peaceful rhythm of the apartment was broken by a sudden knock on the door. Eli, still rubbing sleep from his eyes, glanced toward Era, who seemed calm but tense. Who could that be? Eli asked quietly. Era's Silver. Eyes flickered for a moment. It might be someone from my clan. The door opened, and a tall Liari man stepped inside. His presence was strong and confident, but his eyes quickly found Eli. There was a hint of suspicion in his gaze. I am Kalen, the visitor said, nodding to both of them. Era's old friend. Eli stood up, offering a polite smile. Nice to meet you. Kalen's eyes lingered on Eli for a moment longer than expected. See, you have stayed during the season? Yes, Era said softly. My human friend couldn't leave. Kalen's face tightened. It is not wise. The season changes us. Humans cannot understand. Eli felt the tension rise. He tried to stay calm, but Kalen's words felt sharp. Maybe, Eli said carefully. But I'm here now, and I want to understand. Era stepped. Between them, Kalen, Eli, is different. He is patient and kind. Kalen's gaze shifted to Era, then back to Eli. Lyari bonds are fragile. Mixing with humans can cause pain. Eli swallowed hard. He could feel the weight of Kalen's disapproval, but he refused to back down. I don't want to cause pain, Eli said quietly. I just want to be here. The room grew heavy with silence. Later, when Kalen left, Era sat beside Eli on the couch. Her face was troubled. I'm sorry, she whispered. He worries for me, for us. Lay reached out, taking her hand gently. I understand, he said. But we have to choose what's right for us. Era looked into his eyes and nodded slowly. We will find our own path, she promised. That night, Eli lay awake, thinking about the day. The visitor's words echoed in his mind. He wondered if the bond he shared with Era was truly possible, if it was fragile, as Kalen warned. But deep inside, a quiet hope remained, hope that their connection, built on patience and trust, could be stronger than fear. The next morning, the sunlight came gently through the window, but Eli felt heavy inside. Now the visitor's words still echoed in his mind. Was this bond with Era really possible? No. Or was it just a fragile dream? Era found him in the living room, sitting quietly with a cup of tea. She sat down beside him without a word. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then Era spoke softly. Eli, I want to be honest with you. Tali turned to her, curiosity and concern mixing in his eyes. I don't always understand. Human feelings. Your emotions are complex. And sometimes confusing. He nodded slowly. I know. It's not always easy for me either. Era's gaze softened, but despite that, I choose you. It's not because of this season, not because I am supposed to, but because of who you are." Eli's breath caught. He hadn't expected her to say this out loud. "I feel scared," she admitted. "Scared of what others think? Scared of being wrong?" Eli reached out and took her hand gently. "I feel scared too. Scared of losing you. Scared of not being enough." They held hands quietly, their fingers intertwining. In that moment, words were not needed. "I don't know what this will become," Eli said honestly, "but I want to try to understand." "With you?" Era smiled, a soft, hopeful smile. "Then we will learn together," she said. The silence that followed was warm. It was full of promise and trust. Later that evening, they sat by the window, watching the stars flicker in the night sky. "I don't think I've ever felt this calm," Eli whispered. Era looked at him, her eyes shining. "Me neither." They stayed side by side, sharing the quiet peace that came from honesty and hope. No grand declarations, no rush, just two beings, choosing to trust the slow, beautiful path ahead. The days slowly moved forward, and the bright colors of mating season began to fade across Varelafor. The city returned to its usual rhythm, the streets filled with people again. Soft tension in the air grew lighter. But inside the small apartment, something remained, a quiet connection between Eli and Era that had changed them both. Era sat near the window, watching the stars blink in the early evening sky. Eli joined her, holding a small box in his hands. "It's for you," he said, handing it to her. She opened it carefully. Inside was a small token, simple but meaningful. It was a ring made of woven metal threads, soft to touch and glowing faintly. "It's not like your lure," Eli explained. "It's just a symbol, to show that I choose to keep walking beside you no matter what." Era looked at the ring with surprise, then a smile spread across her face. "I accept." They placed the ring together on her finger. It wasn't a promise of forever not yet, but a step forward in the following days. Eli was invited to meet Era's family. It was a gentle introduction, full of curiosity and respect. Her kin welcomed him, sensing the honesty in their bond. Eli felt nervous but hopeful. He saw how different species could come together, not through force or rules, but through understanding. Back in their apartment, life returned to calmness, but their connection did not fade. It grew quietly, like a soft flame that refused to go out. One evening, as they sat side by side, Eli reached for Era's hand. "Whatever comes next," he said softly, "I'm glad it's with you." Era squeezed his hand gently. "So am I." Outside, the stars shone brightly over Varelafor. The season was over, but something new had begun. Not a sudden spark, not a loud declaration, but a quiet bond between two different beings who chose to trust, to listen, and to be seen. And in that choice there was hope.